my God, did you see that lion? And Dula said, not just one, there are 5 of them. A few weeks ago in Tanzania, I had one of the scariest moments in the wilderness. I was on foot walking and I came across a lion within striking distance. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what happened and some techniques on how to take photos during a life and death situation. So come with me. So in my 2-week trip to Tanzania, for the first 10 days, I joined a group tour. So I shared a vehicle with other photographers. And then on the last 4 days, I hired a private guide with a private vehicle so that I can have all the freedom to do photography. Dula is my guide and he's from Tanzania. He has a slender build, very strong, and he's definitely one of the best guys that I've ever met. The night before the last day, since I have to fly back to Los Angeles from Tanzania, I really want to make sure that I have backed up all my photos into different hard drives. So that night I was backing up files, checking the cards and all the stuff. I was so tired. So at around 2 a.m. I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to just take a nap for 2 hours and I'll continue to back up the files. When I open my eyes, it's already 7 a.m. and I have a flight to catch in 2 hours. So I was really rushing and Dula was asking if I need any help. I said, yes, just grab whatever and throw it into the vehicle. So we were basically just grabbing the cameras and then walk outside to the vehicle and then get back. While we were running in and out of the tent, I heard some knocking sound. It's like this big tree branches breaking. Dula said, Tin Man, grab your camera. And I didn't even think. I just grabbed my cameras and then just aimed to the front. And there, I saw some tall grass, probably maybe 30 or 40 feet. Right behind this tall grass, there were 2 male buffaloes, bumping heads. And the bumping created that sound that I heard. Cape buffalo is one of the most dangerous African wildlife. They are aggressive, they are unpredictable, and they can charge at you at any time. And I've never really seen them fight like that. I saw them with their horn really pinching into each other and with blood coming out. Maybe they're just in a bad temper. That fight looks like it's life and death because they would just not let go. The grass was really blocking my view. I was asking Dula if we were able to walk a little bit to the right-hand side. He said yes, and then he grabbed my arm from this side under my shoulder and then said, let's go. So as we walk, I looked through that angle and behind the 2 buffaloes, in the tall grass, maybe another 20, 30 feet behind them, I saw the face of a lioness. The lioness was watching these buffaloes the whole time. So I whispered to Dula, oh my God, did you see that lion? And Dula said, not just one, there are 5 of them. I started to glance around and I only saw 3 of them in the tall grass, probably about 10 or 15 feet next to each other, all watching these 2 buffaloes. How come the buffaloes didn't run away? Dula said, they haven't seen the lioness yet. This lioness inched closer and closer to them, and it's all quiet. All I could hear is just this knocking sound, and the buffaloes had no idea. We really had nothing in between us and the buffalo and the lioness, and I was on foot. If the lioness decided to change their mind and go for us, we are dead. My legs were shaking, and Dula said, this lioness might strike at any time. All I was thinking was if these buffaloes started to run from the lioness, they're going to be charging right at us. And there really was nothing to hide. The tent was opened and the vehicle was far away. But because Dula was so professional, he was making sure that I was safe the whole time. Dula said, you know what? Let's get back to the vehicle and then we can get to a better angle and we're going to be safer. And I was like, should we go or should we take the photos? Because experience tells me that the moment I walk to the vehicle, something crazy is gonna happen, right? So I kept looking back and said, okay, let's go. And so we tiptoe, bend our body down, and then we just walk 50 feet back into our vehicle. And I literally just roll into the back of the vehicle as Dula just jump into the vehicle, start the engine, and then we just roll back into the location. And thank God nothing happened yet. So I said, hey Dula, you know what, can you help me to take some videos while I take photos? And then I just gave him my phone. These buffaloes were still fighting. The lioness gets closer and closer. And that's when the buffaloes finally saw this lioness, and their behavior immediately changed. They tried to run, but because of the fight, their horns got tangled with each other and they couldn't separate. And I actually have seen bighorn sheep doing that, like when they're doing this life and death fighting for females. It is so dangerous. Sometimes they couldn't separate. I've seen a photo of a bighorn sheep with a skull of another bighorn sheep attached to the horn, and I think it's because of that. They just couldn't separate. So these buffaloes, when they see the lioness, they couldn't separate. And I can see the eyes of the buffaloes. They were trying to look backward, but they couldn't turn their head because they were stuck. The eyeballs almost was coming out, and I see like blood vessels on the eyes. And as the lioness came closer, these buffaloes started to scream, and I would never forget that scream because it just penetrates through the space. As the buffalo struggled to separate with each other, these lioness started to come out of the grass. So they are all visible. And then they started to do these things like this shark is going to circle around the prey. What I think they're doing is they will try to walk around them to distract them. And then one of the lions are going to strike on the back of the buffalo so that the horns of the buffalo didn't hurt them. They started to walk around this buffalo and started to increase their speed, basically running around them. And during that moment, I only had one lens. That's one of the biggest lessons. So I only had a 400 millimeter at the time. And fortunately, it's the Z400, the Nikon one. So they have an internal teleconverter. So I can switch it to 560 millimeter and 400. So at least it gives me two options. So I didn't have the 7200 with me. Otherwise, it would have been a better shot with the whole scene in the view. I have to decide what do I need to focus on. I wanted to get a photo with the buffaloes in the foreground, and then this lion was just walking in the back. These buffaloes were trying to untangle themselves. The force was so strong that one of them almost fell off with 4 feet off the ground, but they just couldn't. I just couldn't breathe watching them. Male buffaloes are actually very strong, and sometimes they will charge at the lion and it will cause severe damage to the lions, and especially these two big males are huge and muscular, so these lioness still didn't want to risk it, so they were just testing and testing. These two buffaloes who were enemies, just 1 minute ago they were trying to kill each other, but seeing that the imminent danger is happening, they decided to form a team. They were using their hooves to kick up dust, and then they were doing this rotating thing so that the lioness couldn't approach. One of the lionesses decided to jump. But right before the lioness could get onto their back, they did a final struggle. And they were able to separate from each other. And instantly, I see the gap between these horns, and the lioness immediately retrieved back to the tall grass. These two buffaloes just run for their lives, basically one kicking the butt of another buffalo. They sprinted like 100 feet until one of them stopped and then looked back. I had such an adrenaline rush that I almost fainted. This is one of my favorite photos from that encounter. These two buffaloes were trying to separate from each other, so their heads were all pointing upwards and their feet were also separated, and the two lioness were just watching from behind. I would have missed the whole thing if I didn't have doula, and if I was just focusing on rushing and rushing. It really teach me that in life, everything is just meant to be. We try our best. We just relax and let it be, and maybe good things will happen. So these two buffaloes get to live another day. So I hope you enjoy this story, and if you like this kind of wildlife encounter, definitely check out my encounter with 7 male lions just a few days before this happened. So the video is right here, so definitely check it out. And the reason I went in March was because the millions of wildebeest will begin their annual journey of migration from the southern part of Serengeti. A lot of the big cats would be following them, and there might be a lot of opportunities to photograph them. The great migration of the wildebeest and zebras is considered as one of the 7 wonders of natural world, and it has been my childhood dream to go. And I'll see you next time.